Hi, thank you for watching. I wanted to talk about the phases of the moon. I wanted to talk about the different phases of the moon due to the fact that no one on YouTube has a particular breakdown on the different phases of the moon. So I wanted to just give you guys a brief overview of the different phases of the moon. Now, there are 8 phases in the moon, if you guys did not know that. There are 8 phases in the moon. The first one is the new moon. The next one is the waxing crescent, the first quarter, waxing gibbous, full moon, waning gibbous, third quarter, and finally waxing crescent. The moon has phases. The wanes, waxings, and even sometimes we can't even see the moon during its phase. So we're going to jump right into the different phases of the moon. But I first wanted to give you guys a quote by Buzz Aldrin. He says, "By refocusing our space program on Mars for America's future, we can restore the sense of wonder and adventure and space exploration that we knew in the summer of 1969. We won the moon's race. Now it's time for us to live and work on Mars. First on its moon and then on its surface." So that's a quote from Buzz Aldrin, one of the astronauts who actually landed on the moon. So let's jump into some definitions of the moon. Now, I wanted to give you a definition on the waning moon, and it says, "The moon at any time after the full moon and before the new moon, so called because its illuminated area is decreasing." So that's the definition of a waning moon. A waxing moon is the moon at any time after the new moon and before the full moon, so called because its illuminated area is increasing. So a waxing moon is increasing. It's increasing in size, getting larger and larger. A waning moon is when it's decreasing. So if you're trying to banish stuff, you want to do it when the waning moon is taking the effect. And if you want to bring something in, you're going to do it when the waxing moon, like you want to do your money spells, your increasing wealth, prosperity, abundance. You want to do it when a waxing moon. If you want to do a spell or a ritual to banish things, remove blockages, you want to do it in the waning moon. So, as I said before, there are 8 phases in the moon. Let's begin with the new moon. The new moon is the beginning portion of the moon phases. A new moon happens when the moon is located between the earth and the sun. We typically cannot see a new moon since the dark side of the moon is facing the earth. New moons can create solar eclipse where the moon blocks the sun rays and creates a shadow on the parts of the earth. Number 2, a waxing moon. During the waxing moon or waxing crescent phase, the moon travels east in the sky. The waxing crescent phase of the moon begins once we can see a tiny silver of the moon after a new moon. And there are times when you might not be able to see the rest of the moon as well, even if it is dark, because a phenomenon called earth shine, in which the earth reflects the sun light to the moon. This phase usually occurs a few days after the new moon. The waxing crescent began its phase. The first quarter. The next phase of the lunar cycle is the first quarter. During this phase, you can see half of the moon that is illuminated. The name first quarter comes from the fact that this is the stage of the lunar cycle that is 1/4 or quarter of the way completed. Not everyone will be able to see the same half of the moons during this phase, primarily because it depends on your location. So some people may see the right side of the moon illuminated, and then the other people may see the left side illuminated. The fourth one is the waxing gibbous moon. This phase essentially covers the time between the first quarter phase and the full moon phase. The word waxing gibbous describes what the phase is pretty well. Waxing means growing larger, and the word gibbous refers to the shape. So waxing gibbous essentially means growing shape. The moon will get more and more illuminated until the moon is fully illuminated, which starts the next phase, the full moon. As you probably already know, a full moon is when the entire moon face is completely illuminated by the sun. The full moon occurs when the sun and the moon are opposite sides of the earth. Technically, the moon is only 100% by the sun. The moon is 100% illuminated by the sun for a few moments, but this phase also covers when the moon looks full but isn't. So you might think it's full, but it isn't when it's only done this way for a few moments. When the moon is at its closest point to the earth in its orbit, it's called the supermoon, and it is the farthest point, it's called the micromoon. So when it is at the farthest point, it's called the micromoon, and when it is at its closest point to the earth in its orbit, it's called the supermoon. Another cool thing that occasionally happens during the full moon is when the moon phases, or when the moon passes through the earth's shadow, and that is called the lunar eclipse. So when you have a lunar eclipse, it usually happens when the moon is full and when it passes through the earth's shadows. During a lunar eclipse, the moon will be a reddish color, like the picture that I'm going to show you now. The waning gibbous moon. The waning means increasing, and like I said before, I apologize, the waxing means increasing and the waning means decreasing. So the waning gibbous moon means that the shape is decreasing. So the waning gibbous phase lasts until the moon is half illuminated. So that's the waning gibbous moon. The third quarter moon is basically the exact opposite of the first quarter moon. This is when the moon is half lit up in the sky, and it also signals when the lunar phase is 3/4 of completed. So it is 75% completed. It's called the third quarter of the moon. The waning crescent moon is in the final stage of the lunar cycle. This phase starts when the sun illuminates less than half of the moon and continues until new moon phase. During this phase, we can also see the effect of the earth shine, just like we can during the new moon phase. This phase ends when the moon and the sun rises at the same time, which starts the lunar cycle over again, starting with the new moon. You can also check your calendar for the lunar cycles and find the different things about the moon. You also want to check the cycle of the moon if you're doing your spells and rituals and stuff, to make sure you're doing it the right time of the moon phase, especially if you're working at night. And if you want to get the proper things done, you're going to do it that way. And also, you probably want to download, I have an app on my phone that's called the Moon Plus. So I get an alert to my phone when the moon is gonna come in into the new moon, and then I check it every day just to see what the basis is gonna be as far as the moon. So that was just a quick little overview of the different moon phases. Please leave your comments, subscribe, and also like. Thank you for watching.